is Yohanny Gamez. I've been training dogs pretty much all my life. Uh, my dad was a veterinarian, and he instilled the love for dogs, basically, and horses.
Hmm.
Uh, had horses when I was growing up too, but obviously horses are a little bit more challenging to keep than dogs, and basically when I wanted to keep competing. I wrestle and lifted weights in high school, and I wanted to stay active in something that was physical. And so when I was starting to, visit dog shows and stuff like that, I discovered the world of protection training
Hmm.
and started going to clubs and learning and seminars and stuff like that, and it just developed there. You know, I was young, 20 something learning, and it hasn't stopped since. So
Uh,
most of them, I always been partial to pit bulls and American bulldogs and bull breeds in itself.
hmm.
So that's why a lot of the people that have those breeds, rare Molosso bull breeds, reach me and come to me for training because they're a little bit different than your typical Malinois, Shepherds, uh, breeds, Border Collies, stuff like that, Labradors. Um, so I always liked those breeds myself, but I
Hmm.
mean, had I had from small German Jack Terriers and Patterdales all the way up Airedales, Argentine Dogos, American Bulldog, Malinois Shepherds, Great Danes, um, Neos, French Mastiffs, you name them, and some I own and but most of them I train,
Hmm.
and that led from one breed to the other that they're sort of similar.
Hmm.
People got to know my work, and then they invited me, and I kept working other breeds, Bull Mastiffs, Fila Brasileiros, Rotties, of course. Rottie was some of the first ones that I worked. Um, Doberman, um, Dutch Shepherds, uh, anything. I even have pictures of working a blue tick coonhound in protection work. Which you don't see it, obviously, but that one had a little bit of the temperament to work, and it worked
Hmm.
out better. Any of them rare breeds, I work most of them.
Hmm.
So
What are some of the characteristics that make a good protection dog?
they have to have it. You a lot of people think it has to do with temperament. I say not really. Temperament is something that you can mold. It has to do with character. The character of the dog is what makes him a protection dog.
Hmm.
If you're talking about personal protection, they need to be a little bit on territorial, defensive side. And when I'm talking about defensive, a lot of people think, oh, the dog is spooky. There's several grades of defensiveness in a dog. We're not. I'm not talking about the last part of the spectrum, which is like very nervous dogs. Those are, what we call fear biters, and those are just very nervous, insecure dogs. But
Hmm.
they do need to have a little bit of defense and territorial drive to make them be possessive of their environment, of their area, and
Hmm.
that's what regular a good personal protection dog.
Hmm.
When to the other dogs, they're basically dogs with a lot of drive for sport work. Uh, they're just dogs that have a lot of prey drive, and you develop the fight drive into them. Some
Hmm.
of more than others. It just depends on the breed. It depends on the dog, even in the breed itself. not every single dog in the same breed behaves the same way.
Mhm.
There are exceptions to that. They do
Mhm.
have pull as a breed as itself. They work a certain way. They act a certain way, but you're always going to have exceptions.
Mhm.
There that don't fit into that norm.
Mhm.
But basically, what you look is for a dog with a strong temperament, strong character, and then it's the bond between family or person and that animal.
Mhm.
Some of them are obvious. Like I said, some of them will show that extreme one way or the other, whether good or bad.
Mhm.
Out of them, if you go into good top breeders, a lot of them fall in the middle, and now it becomes training.
Mhm.
Training, you can do a lot, and the way you gear the training,
Mhm.
you can make a dog a little bit more sporty. We call it more sport work oriented, or you can make it more of a personal dog.
Mhm.
Personal dog. Personal, yeah, it has a lot to do what we call cross training. A lot of the dogs that work in sport work, we also do a little bit of cross training so they can work also in real life, real
Mhm.
scenario. Not just you see a sleeve or a bodysuit and the dog wants to work. No, they need to focus on people, not just on equipment.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, there's some things that you can notice right away on some of them is how possessive they are. Some of them start growling and barking, and not out of fear. They start showing you how bossy they are right
Mhm.
away.
Mhm.
And that just gives you an idea. It doesn't mean that they're better than their litter mates. It just tells you that it's showing it earlier. You
Mhm.
can show it as early and still be as good as that puppy that is showing you that early temperament.
Mhm.
It show it's like humans. They're all different.
Right.
Well, basically, there's several 4 or 5 sports all over the world when it comes to protection. You have basically the original one, which used to be called Schutzen, now they call it IPO, um, developed by the Germans, um, and is sort of like the triathlon of protection work because it
Mhm.
consists. You got a tracking portion, obedient portion, and protection.
Mhm.
Uh, it's done with a sleeve, and it just tests different types of character and temperament on the dog. It was made especially to um, to have an idea of select dogs that could potentially work in police department.
Mhm.
When they started all those sports, dogs working with people have been around for thousands of years,
Mhm.
but in police environment has been only the last 100 years or so. It's
Mhm.
not in really started maybe early 1900s.
Mhm.
Um, it wasn't implemented before, um, but so that's basically what IPO and Schutzen is. Then you have what is very popular right now, the Dutch program in the KMPV. It's the same thing. It's different in the exercise, but it's the same thing. You're selecting and checking out. Basically, it's a checkout process for dogs that can be used in police and military department. Most of those dogs that are sold to those departments are sold by individuals. They're not really dog brokers per se, but
Mhm.
a lot of them in that country, they'll train their dog, title their dog, and then, they'll have people come and look at them and buy them from them. And then they'll start all over again with a pup,
Mhm.
you know. Um, they use a suit. Their suit is different than most typical protection suits. Uh, It has double layer. Layer underneath it is leather. The layer on top of it is jute, and it's very thin, and it's made that way specifically so the decoy can feel the pressure and the hardness of the bite that comes across when the dogs are biting. There's several exercises where the decoy reports to the judge how good the dog was working by himself with him,
Mhm.
and that type of suit lets you judge that. Then you have ring sport, and basically ring sport has also obedience and protection. Ring sports are French, from province of from French and Belgium, and they most of the dogs in that sport they bite lower body legs because the point of the sport is for the decoys to be they're very movable, and so they try a lot of the exercises are skeeving and trying to get away from the dog, so they make it very difficult for the dog to engage and catch up to them.
Mhm.
So the suits, even though they have a pretty good padding, they're very flexible, so the decoys can be able to move almost like if they don't have anything on. Um, and like I said, most of the dogs bite, especially in the higher levels. They need to
Mhm.
bite to be successful. They need to bite the lower portion of the body, just because it's harder for a person to give or move away their legs than it does
Mhm.
the upper body. All you do is, the
Mhm.
dog comes at the last minute, you can move, and there it goes. And so in their critique, you will lose points if the decoy can get away from the dog.
Mhm.
The space he can create between him and the dog, the more points the dog will lose.
Mhm.
So that's why they bite legs.
Mhm.
Then you also have the Belgian program with MBBK dogs. Uh, uh, to me, it's one of my favorites.
Mhm.
The dogs have a lot of, again, obedience and protection, um, and but they have a lot of control where the dog, and a lot of times, have to think for himself and control himself and know when to react and when not to react. So there's
Mhm.
a lot of scenarios where very close contact, but
Mhm.
the dog have to think for himself a lot, and obviously it comes with training.
Mhm.
But they they tease them and do different things to make them jump the gun, so to speak, and then and the dog have to bite when it's supposed to, when it's
Mhm.
required
Mhm.
to protect. Um, they can bite upper body or lower body, depending. Some clubs in Belgium train the lower body. Some
Mhm.
clubs train, but most of them, 75%, 80% of them, train for the upper body
Mhm.
bite. Then you still got now there's some more you got a variation of the MBBK program called Mondio Ring, and Mondio is basically a melt of French ring, Belgium, and so it uses a little bit of both sports with their own unique style, the
Mhm.
control, the guarding of the object that they have in ring sport, that they have in KMPV. Obviously, they all have their version of it, so you
Mhm.
will see that if you watch any of the sports that I'm mentioning. But it's basically the same principle.
Mhm.
For guarding the object, it could be anything. It could be a suitcase. It could be a basket, whatever they want to. And then they'll have different patterns just
Mhm.
for, and it has a lot to do with how they develop those patterns and that those techniques is basically a lot of the traditional work that the dogs were meant to work, they were meant to do back in the days when that those sports were being developed.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the stuff, and people ask me all the time, why they do, a basket, you know, for example. Like, well, back then we didn't have grocery bags. You had basket, and that's how you went to the store. You bought eggs, you bought milk, bread. You know, so they're going back from way, way back then,
Mm-hmm.
and it stayed as a tradition, and and that's how they use it. Now, here in the states, um, they have several smaller federations. One they call PSA, and like I said, it's a blend of the Mondial ring and French ring, KMPV style training. Basically, they just had their own version and their own style and their own different exercise, um, more to the American style type of training.
Mm-hmm.
Those are basically the the main ones that they have. Different places you will have personal protection tournaments that they're getting more popular now with people that have dogs and they don't want to go through that strict criteria that you will
Mm-hmm.
have in the so-called title protection sports. Um, a lot of people they deviate from shots and just or IPO just because of the tracking portion. Very few
Mm-hmm.
people um, track with their dogs. There's no need to. Uh, so most of them try to go the other sports where there's obedience and protection,
Mm-hmm.
and tracking to a lot of them is boring. They don't
Yeah.
understand it, so it's
Mm-hmm.
it's boring. It's not as exciting as seeing a nice protection dog, a nice obedience dog. But
Mm-hmm.
those are basically the main sports all over the world. Here in the states, I just joined a federation that is working very closely with a KMPD program in Holland called APA,
Mm-hmm.
and it has some Dutch people that live here and they contribute to that federation. They're basically working the same exercise the same way that they do in KMPB, except for a couple of exercises are missing. Um, but other than that, it's exactly the same thing that you will see in a KMPV program
Mm-hmm.
in Holland. But those are basically the main ones.
All right. And do you still compete, or do you still train dogs to compete in those sorts of things?
I haven't competed in a long time just because of, you know, family life. My kids been growing up and all that. I'm planning
Mm-hmm.
to start competing in the next year or so. I got a new dog right now, a Malinois that he's young. He's only 14 months, and I'm messing around with him, and hopefully I'll start titling him soon in the next year or so. Um, I train a lot of dogs in the protection portion that kept on getting title. They started with me when they were young, and then when they decided that they wanted a title, the people joined clubs and finished there.
Mm-hmm.
I competed when I was younger, and some of them I competed in a lot of just regular protection tournaments because they were
Yeah.
fun. Um, Bulldog Federation had what they call the Iron Dog program, and the Iron Dog is basically dog compete for fun. It's
Mm-hmm.
more testing their natural ability, and it started in bulldogs, but now any dog competes. You
Okay.
know,
Yeah.
basically it has three, like sort of like a triathlon. Also, you have a sprint race from point A to point B to see how fast your dog can run.
Mm-hmm.
You have a hard hitting portion to see how hard a dog can hit a decoy from a distance, certain distance, and then you have a weight pool.
Okay.
Uh, so the dog can do. three different things, and then they add the scores at the end, just like NASCAR, by accumulating points.
Mhm.
It'll who wins at the end.
Mhm.
Uh, and that's a lot of fun. Though that and with the Iron Dog program is a lot of fun for a lot of people that want to start and they don't have a lot of experience with training dogs and
Mhm.
competing, and it gives them that bug to, okay, I tried this, I was successful at it, let me keep going on and do something a little bit harder. Because a lot
Mhm.
of new handlers are intimidated when they see IPO work. They're like, no, there's no way my dog can do that or I can do that. So that's very intimidating, but by it. So there's a lot of smaller programs like that. Some of them are started in a club, Pacific Breed Club,
Mhm.
has branched into other breeds that can compete also.
Mhm.
And so and it's easier titles. It's basically testing more the natural temperament of the specific breed or breeds that are similar to them,
Mhm.
and then they start you know then they start getting more and more and more involved, and it takes a lot of dedication.
Mhm. Right.
Anything that you want to do, it doesn't matter whether you want to play chess to you want to run marathon. It takes dedication,
Mhm.
and some people have, because of life or whatever, have certain amount of time to dedicate to that
Mhm.
activity. Not everybody can do that super high uh, competition. So
Mhm.
a lot of time. It takes a lot of hours. An IPO dog will take you a minimum of 10,000 hours of training.
Mhm.
You break that down, that's a lot of years to get
Mhm.
that. So that's just to give you an idea in that particular sport. But yeah, they have different stuff, smaller um, competition like that people can get involved in, and then if they want to keep progressing, they can, and have fun with your dog, have
Mhm.
your dog active. Um, I see a lot of change in our culture where they want our dog just to be a pet and be a couch potato. And that's all against the nature of the dog. The dog needs to work, otherwise they become destructive.
Mhm.
They were not made to be pets. Yeah, Chihuahuas, little dogs, Shih Tzu, stuff like that were pets. But the majority of the dogs that were working breeds,
Mhm.
once that work, they become destructive, and that's how they end up in shelters.
Uh,
Really, they have it. It's their body that cannot catch up.
yeah.
Yeah. I had bulldogs, English bulldogs, for years, and I had what is called oldies.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
they're more athletic and they're healthier, and that's the original bulldog was like that.
Mhm.
What happened was once the shows started developing and getting more popular, and the shows basically started in England.
Mhm.
Now women wanted to show the dogs, and I'm not trying to
Yeah.
say anything. Saying more people, the regular show wasn't just the only one showing their dogs, but women, kids. So they wanted something to be more docile and not so aggressive that they can control.
Mhm.
Start changing the what the breed was, not only on them, but a lot of them. A lot of them were more aggressive. And now when you have a dog show, everybody wants to come and grab their mouth, their teeth, and all that. You couldn't do that with dogs that were used more for guard work. Typical bull mastiff. Bull mastiffs. I remember in the old standard. Well, I was talking to somebody about this the other day. Is in the standard it tells you when you're judging them, don't look straight into their eyes because that's a sign of them to come after you. You know,
Mhm.
or now it's like, what do you want? You're looking at me, and that was what a real good bull mastiff was back in the days. You know, so. So they had to tame them down to be able to show. And in the process, I think they went too far sometimes. You know, they could have found a happy medium uh, and not go so far, but that's just, society. Anything to the extreme is bad, one way or the other.
Yeah.
You take an aspirin.
Mhm.
Aspirin is good for you. You take
Mhm.
one a day, it helps with circulation,
Mhm.
right? It helps to prevent heart disease. You
Mhm.
20 a day, you end up with an ulcer, opens a hole in your stomach. So
Mhm.
anything extreme is bad for you. You're talking about the bull terrier. A lot of people don't understand that, and I had a lot of bull terriers that I worked,
Mhm.
and I'll post some pictures once I go through it. A
Yeah.
lot
Yeah.
that I come, like the ones I posted today with my Argentine dogos. I think it's not 20 years ago. So
Yeah.
everything, a picture that I took
Yeah.
with disposable camera, and now I'm taking a picture with my phone to show them off. What a lot of people don't understand, especially in the bull terrier, is that dome, by them creating that dome, besides all the health issues that you're talking about, uh, indirectly they have bred into them a neurological disorder. You're gonna see a lot of bull terriers that spin around chasing their own tail, that they bite their paws. That's a neurological disorder that they have because they didn't screen for healthier dogs. All they were looking was, let's make that head more impressive.
Mhm.
And when they did that, they bred inferior animals.
Mhm.
So that's the problem that you have with the bull terriers are terrible mothers.
Mhm.
They'll kill they'll kill their own puppies.
Mhm.
Now you crossbreed them to a pit bull and get a little bit of the bull terrier out of it, and now you have excellent mom. 1 out of 10 is a good mom. I've seen them where they give them birth and they eat them right after giving birth.
Wow.
It's I was reading the other day uh, a special on Neapolitan Mastiff, and I didn't even know this. The people in Europe, they they get the puppies from Neo and they put them with Beagle females. So the Beagle females raises them because they're terrible mothers. They
Mhm.
have bred the Neos, which I love the breed, but the old stuff, not the
Mhm.
stuff got now, all hanging, wrinkles and all that. Um, they'll they're clumsy, you know. And when you breed for that exaggeration or that extreme, you breed all this other problems into it that you don't even realize that you're breeding in because you're just breeding for a look. And what a lot of people don't understand is that temperament, working drive in a dog, you lose it in one generation. You lose it right away. Conformation, you can fix it in one generation. So you'd rather have the working ability, then later you can, with the dogs that are working, if you want certain color, turn the head a little bit bigger, a bigger, taller, bigger dog. You get that in one generation. But and it's easier to keep. For look, it's easier to keep. But temperament, you lose it right away.
Mhm.
Ability, you're gonna lose it right away. If you're not breed, I don't care if you're breeding dogs out of working parents. If you don't test those dogs and you just go in off pedigree, which a lot of people do, and they think, oh, my dogs don't need to be tested. I've been, everybody else did the work before you, but you
Mhm.
don't know that puppy that you kept and has what it takes if you don't test them and whatever you're gonna do with them. You're gonna do protection. People have greyhounds.
Mhm.
You know, I'll put you easier, better example. Sled dogs. Sled dogs, they all run. Now,
Mhm.
be competitive. You know, You have to be breeding a specific gene pool
Mhm.
over picking, the best of the best to be able to keep them at that speed. You know,
Mhm.
that 80% that you want of them to be able to be competitive. And it goes with everything. You need to be able to test your dog. Whatever you do in Labradors, you know, people buy Labradors and they think because they bought a Labrador that they have a dog that can naturally retrieve. And some of them are dumber than a nail. Just because not everybody that breeds Labrador have bred good working Labradors.
Mhm.
They have one of the biggest problems with hip dysplasia.
Mhm.
And I love the Labrador breed. I like watching them compete in retrieving trials. If you notice, dogs of that bloodline are completely different. Yeah, they look like Labradors, but they're different if you start really paying attention to them than the typical pet Labrador. Irish settlers, English settlers. They breed for the longer hair show type dog. Where you see a field Irish settler, yes, they're Irish, right? But they're not so, I guess you can say, so fancy looking. But they're to me, they're still beautiful. You know? But but yeah, when you anything that you breed for the extreme is always bad. I always try to work them in their natural drive. A lot of the so-called trainers, they push dog because people out there, they don't know any better. They see a dog biting and they think, "Oh, my dog is biting. He must be good." Where a lot of dogs are biting out of fear. They're not well equipped up here to be good protection dogs.
Mhm.
But everybody's looking after the money and the quick gratification,
Mhm.
and you got to be careful where you go and train. So I always try to work the dogs in their natural drive and
Mhm.
bring drive, and then you have to balance them. Some of them are going to have more prey than defense. Some of them are more defensive and they have less prey. And you
Mhm.
need to be, to have a more complete dog. Are they all going to be superstars? It's just like people, you
Mhm.
know, horses. Not every thoroughbred can be a Kentucky Derby winner,
Mhm.
you
Right.
know, or just a regular state, winner racer. But but you can always make them better. Um, Situations, not everybody can have a certain type of dog with a strong temperament.
Mhm.
A lot of people tell me, I want a guard dog. I'll tell you, 99% of the people do not really want a real guard dog. A real guard dog is very hard. You have to be on him all the time because it could be a liability.
Mhm.
A lot of people want a dog that does protection, and naturally they're going to be protective and territorial at home. That's all they really want. But most of them, they want basically like a sports dog that they can have, they can compete, they can take them out as social, you know. But some of the real protection guard dog breeds, they're a little bit by nature antisocial,
Mhm.
and they're edgy, you know.
Mhm.
Makes them that breed. That's what they were developed to for, and not everybody can have that. Like I said, 9 out of 10 think they want that, and then when they have it, oh, it becomes too much.
Right.
First of all, you got to look at what environment they're going to live. The person that lives in 20 acres by himself doesn't need the same dog that the person that lives in a suburb, in a subdivision, um, with 4 kids. It's a different type of dog. So you work them accordingly to their needs.
Mhm.
You always try to keep that balance. Um, the dog that is in a shop, for instance, that somebody owns them and they take care of them, but they want him to guard their garage shop, for
Mhm.
example. They need a different dog than the person that wants to take the dog out for a walk and take him to the park and all that. It needs a different temperament dog. Not
Mm-hmm.
everyone suited for that, and you see that all the time, over and over again, with people in dog parks, so called. You know, you have a pit bull. Chances are you're gonna end up in a scuffle somewhere. I mean, let's just let you know, because it doesn't matter. And now you see all these people with the so-called American bullies and all that. You cannot change 2,000 years of primal instinct in a couple of generations. Yeah, and you're gonna have dogs, obviously, like I said before, that don't fit the rule. You know, they're gonna be very outgoing or whatever. But most of the time, even if they behave, even they're, under control, another, all they need is an opportunity. Another dog jumps at them, and they don't have to start it, but it triggers it. And now they'll escalate a little bit further than a typical shepherd, just being bossy, or a Labrador or a poodle, just being bossy with other dogs, just trying to create a pecking order in that environment of the park. I'll play with this toy, you leave my toy alone. No, the pit bull, even though never been involved, or American bulldogs or Neos, any of the breeds, even though they never had an altercation before, all it takes is that little incident to trigger it, and then they go back to what's been bred to them, what they were bred for.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, that's uh, that's one of the biggest problems that you're gonna have. You got to look at the surrounding, what their lifestyle is, and then you try to train them accordingly and balance that work.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the good family protection breeds out there that you've worked with?
There's plenty of them. Um, like the typical shepherds, Malinois Dutch shepherds, American bulldogs, Neo, English Mastiff, Bull Mastiff. All the breeds are working breeds.
Mm-hmm.
Schnauzers, Bouviers, very good dogs. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
um, it has the breeding itself. Like I said, it all depends on your lifestyle. If you live in condominium with a very small, what we call zero lot line, very small area, a Great Dane is going to be uncomfortable there unless you can provide them with adequate walks and all that. But still, a Great Dane will be knocking things over, you know,
Mm-hmm.
have a patio furniture and stuff like that. Okay, but other than that, any of the working breeds are good with family. That was they were made for. Now the biggest challenge is finding a breeder that breeds true to what the
Right.
breed, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's I think that's more of a challenge than anything else. A lot of people breed that they shouldn't be breeding dogs to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of breeds have gone in the way of how they look, and
Mm-hmm.
people are attracted to them because of a certain look that should
Mm-hmm.
never had those breeds to begin with.
All right.
And I think that's a bigger issue than just like I said, you can have um, a bull mastiff. As long as you get a good bred bull mastiff, they're gonna protect you. Uh, the the only difference is compared to, let's say, a German Shepherd. Now, do you like long hair? Do you like short hair?
Mm-hmm.
Can you put up with a slobber from a bull mastiff? All that comes into issues. If you ever remember the movie, if you ever seen it, the Turner and Hooch,
Yeah.
even though a lot of the stuff was even exaggerated more for the movie, they do slobber when they
Mm-hmm.
eat. and they drink water, they slobber. You know, when they
Mm-hmm.
their heads, it goes all over the place. Yes, that happens. You're gonna have, a giant schnauzer is cleaner because of the way it's built. So, but then they have more hair.
Mm-hmm.
What are you willing to deal with on a regular basis as a lifestyle is basically what determines what breed you will like. But all those breeds, and I'm just mentioning the more popular ones.
Right. Right.
They're more or any less than other breeds. I had my Argentine Dogos; they were very good. Um, it depends. It depends on, like I said, your lifestyle. But they're all good as long as you get it from a reputable breeder that is
Mm-hmm.
working, that you can see, uh, what they produce and what they're working with, and go from there.
Right. Definitely. Um, what breeds do you currently own now? You own a Malinois? Anything else?
I have a Malinois. I just got as a personal protection dog, and here we go again to the same thing that we're talking about. What requires a Malinois is an excellent, excellent dog, but with too much drive for inside home. Now, I have seen people that get along real good with Malinois, and those are individuals. But as a breed itself, they're just full of energy. So to me, it doesn't make it ideal to be an inside dog for me. So
Mm-hmm.
now I just picked up, like I said, I still like bulldogs. They can have the drive, but they can
Mm-hmm.
mellow out too. They have that off switch,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I prefer for my family. Dog that has short hair, that can chill with them when they want to. That if I take them to work, they work. They're naturally the breed that I picked. I had my American Bulldog 20 something years. I
Right.
picked the creation of it, but I prefer something medium.
Yeah.
That still have the size and the power to if they work. Uh, but I like something like that. They can chill when they have to. They can. She sleeps with us. And obviously, she's a puppy, but when she's inside the house, yeah, a typical puppy will play and stuff, all that, but it's not the same activity level that a puppy Malinois will.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just me. That's my preference. Any somebody else can do fine with a Malinois inside a
Yeah.
Dutch Shepherd or a German Shepherd.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know, it all depends on, like I said, your requirements and what you like. You
Yeah.
know, a lot of them, some of them too more limited with. I don't know if you familiar with Donovan Pinchers.
Yes.
Don-
Yes.
Donovan developed them. Also, uh, the band dogs are very good, but again, you got so many wishy-washy people that get into it and they think like the band dog program. Um, if you talk to most of them, they think, oh, put a neo female to a pit bull. Yeah, that's most of them start like that. Bull mastiff to a pit, English mastiff crosses to whatever. Uh, but now you also got to take into account. You're talking about breeds, so you're going into a book. Basically, you're breeding on theory,
Mm-hmm.
and my biggest problem with all these people. But are the quality of the animals that you're breeding together, are they good enough?
Right.
Don't just get the first Neo that somebody gave you and breed
Mm-hmm.
it a pit bull, and now
Mm-hmm.
you're crazy dogs, and now oh the band dogs are bad. No, the band dog program, the people that do real band dog program breeding, they're
Mm-hmm.
very very good. But
Mm-hmm.
again, we go back to the same thing. You need to go to somebody that knows what they're doing, not just
Mm-hmm.
breed dogs to sell a puppy.
Mm-hmm.
you know, and they'll use that name to get that point across, and it's not the same. I've seen in the Alapahas themselves, there's only maybe two or three breeders in the country, and John and Lynn are one of them, um, that I will trust to get a puppy from. Everybody else, they're just breeding fancy colors,
Right.
and that's just on one breed. And talking about the band dogs, the same thing. You got to be careful where you get your dog from.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
even the people that breed and know what they're doing, you're gonna end up with a bad puppy here or there.
Right.
It just happens. If everything was so simple, genetics are such a mystery still. Even though we learned the last 20 or 30 years,
Mm-hmm.
I always said if it was so simple, everybody would have a Kentucky Derby winner.
Right.
It's not that simple.
Mm-mm.
There's a lot
Absolutely.
of consideration when it comes to genetically. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I like the man dogs.
Mm-hmm.
I like all breeds. I just I have more problem with the people that I have
Right.
with the breeds themselves. You
Yeah.
know, good bull terrier program. In Europe they have very good bull terrier. The ones I had here, guy in California that hunts a lot with them
Yeah. Yeah.
has a lot of good working bull terriers. You know, and it's the same thing. But you got to know where you getting your dog from. They don't have the size. I had Patterdales for a long time. They're very game greedy dogs. Um, you probably see me in the future messing around with some of them. The Jack
Yeah.
Terriers I
Yeah.
have, and I'll do protection just for the fun of it. Can they be a good deterrent dog? Like I say, inside a car, you get off in the gas station and you leave. Say a woman goes to a gas station and has a little Jack Terrier and she leaves her purse inside. Yeah, I mean they'll act up. They'll get very territorial, and it'll be stupid for anybody to try to stick their hand in there.
Little
But
piranha.
realistically, they don't have the size, the
Mm-hmm.
stopping power um, that bigger breeds do. And I
Mm-hmm.
always dogs basically like like I compare um, dogs. Dogs are basically more of intimidation. A lot of the breeds, um, unless you're on drugs or something, you're not going. If you see a big Neo inside a car, you're not going to approach that car.
No.
Intimidation is a big factor, and the bigger breeds are intimidate a lot more than uh than the smaller dogs. That's just nature.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, I always, like I said, I always compare them to the difference between somebody like uh, like Lee and Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Bruce Lee is more deadly, but Hulk Hogan being bigger, for example, more intimidating.
Yeah.
You know, so intimidation in dogs is a big factor. You know, with a good Rottweiler, they'll intimidate a lot of people just their size alone.
Mm-hmm.
They'll, but yeah, but that's a lot of bull terriers are not very big by nature.
Mm.
Pound for pound, to me, bull terriers have the hardest biting of
Okay.
any breed. Um, when you get a good bull terrier and it's a smaller dog that you can, they're easier to have like inside a house or an apartment, you can't beat them. You know,
Mm-hmm.
have a good working bull terrier. From
Mm-hmm.
there on, it's a size that will be more of a, you know, men's stopper basically.
Mm-hmm.
Anything smaller than a bull terrier, they're just a nuisance. Even though they want to work and they probably will get you off the game, they just don't have the size for
Yeah.
a regular human being um,
Mm-hmm.
to uh, to be any serious threat.
Right.
I just people are getting into all this protection stuff. That do the research. Go with. I see a lot of anybody can buy a sleeve or a bodysuit now online, half the price, and call himself a trainer. Do your research. Just because you bought a stethoscope doesn't make you a doctor.
Right.
And to me, that's the biggest problem that I see in the protection world. You know,
Yeah.
um, do your research when you pick in your breed. You're gonna have a dog for the next 10 to 14, 15 years.
Mhm.
You know, and enjoy it and get him involved in something. Even if you don't like the protection work, get him involved in something. Dogs need to be working.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter taking them out to the park all the time. You know,
Mhm.
they're pack animals. They need to be around all the pack members, whether it's another dog or humans.
Right.
They don't see us like we see them. That's the biggest problem that I see with people. They humanize animals. You know,
Right.
it's my dog, it's my baby. No, we love our animals. You respect
Mhm.
animals. They see us as a pack member. They don't see us as, oh, you own me. You buy.
Mhm.
They don't care about that. So as long as you know that the nature of what a dog is supposed to be, and you treat it with respect and love and you know and exercise them and training, you shouldn't have any problem. And like I said, just take your time and pick somebody that knows what they're doing. Because there's a lot of fly by night people now, trainers and I've seen them. I've seen people. I've been training for the public since 1990. Uh, a lot of people that I saw in the 90s, uh, a lot of people that I seen in late 2000s, we're 2019, they're not around now.
Mhm.
So just be careful. And that's just me in locally, you know,
Mhm.
uh, be careful and if you're not sure, get a second opinion. Go and see different people,
Mhm.
especially when you have rare breeds. Uh, you know, a lot of people specialize more in the herding breeds, or the Rotties, the Dobermans, stuff like
Mhm.
that. All the Bull, Malazzo, Mastiff breeds, they're a different animal.
Mhm.
You have to, yes, they're still dogs. They still get fleas. They still got four legs. The ones that are born with four legs, obviously, but they got a tail. They bark. But breeds they behave different. You know,
Mhm.
a bulldog doesn't have the same retrieve drive than a Labrador does.
Mhm.
And so, anyways, just make sure that you do your homework and get your dog that you're comfortable that will fit your lifestyle.
Mhm.
And it's basically going back to my family. I was born in Cuba. I came when I was 11. But my dad always talked about the dogs that they use in the farm over there, and basically they were nothing more than what you know now as a pretty much as a Spanish Alanos,
Mhm.
which is a Spanish bulldog style, of work dog. I just started messing with him a while back to sort of recreate the same thing that what my family had. And
Mhm.
they had 500 acres dairy farm, and they bought, and this was in the 50s, and this is just going by my dad. Obviously, they don't have pictures back then.
Mhm. Mhm.
Especially, it was just a hassle just to take a family picture. Now,
Right.
now so easy just to you pick up your phone and take a picture. You
Yeah.
know, um, so let alone take a picture of a dog.
Right.
Basically what they did was when my family brought specific cattle to Cuba, they imported dogs from the Canary, and my grandparents are from the Canary Islands.
Okay. Mhm.
They call them back then. They just call them perro de presa. You know, and there was none of this Dogo Canario and none of the stuff that they call them now, you know. And basically they were gripping dogs to control the cattle. The same. It's funny. Different places in the world. The more things change, the more they stay the same.
Right. Right.
You have similar breeds that do the same type of work in different places of the world, and they look the same basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay? So you have the Azores in Portugal. You
Mhm.
have the Alanos in Spain and the Canary Islands. Um, Azores is an island in Portugal, but
Mhm.
you got in Uruguay the cimarrón uruguayo.
Mhm.
They're similar, you
They
know.
all look. Yeah.
They, yeah, they were all the same. Back in the day, the the original filas were from the Cuban bloodhounds that
Oh,
went to Brazil,
Brazil. Mhm.
um, and they were the same cattle dogs, the same thing that you see with blackmouth curs. The
Mhm.
um, they all did the same type of work. Work cattle is a different type of work than what the border collie does. The
Mhm.
border collie is more precise. Or if you ever seen a cur dog working in a carahula, they work in a different style of work. And so what happened in Cuba was the same thing that happened in Florida. Um, you can't throw a lasso in bushes, so you need those type of dogs to put the heat on the bull or the cow or the cattle to get them out of the bushes because when they grow, when they basically grow wild, that you're not interacting with them, they become as wild as a deer.
Mhm.
They revert back to nature.
Mhm.
So you need to have dogs that can be when you have to deworm them. You have to, they have to be, let's say one of them got cut, or you have to doctor them. You and they hiding in those bushes. You can't throw a lasso. A lot of people think they talk about lassos and and cowboys. That's something from the Midwest when everything is open desert. But here, you can Georgia, Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, the
Mhm.
is a different type of terrain.
Mhm.
So either you need dogs that are a little bit more physical to get the cattle out of the bushes, or you need to be able to hold them. You can get off the horse, put the on them, go back to your horse, and put them out.
Mhm.
And that's the type of dogs that that were used that have been used all over the world.
Right.
And my family being, my grandfather, like I said, was born he was born in La Gomera, one of the islands in Canary Island, and so they already had, from family over there, they already knew the type of dogs that they did that work, and so when they imported the cattle, they imported dogs that can help them that. Now, what happened was the original stuff was too aggressive. So they instead of working, they were destroying. They had to take care. They were ripping off the ears and all that. So what they did was they mixed them with already the herding dogs that they had there to give them a little bit more of the of that power that they needed. Another thing that a lot of people don't think about is pain sensitive.
Mhm.
A lot of dogs want to work, but they don't. If they don't have the pain tolerance,
Mhm.
get step on or they get kicked on, they'll quit.
Mhm.
Another breed that I really enjoy and watch them all the time is I don't know if you've seen them, but called hanging tree cattle dogs,
No. Oh.
and it's a mixture of four breeds, but basically all they did was develop a super cattle dog to work cattle. Because when you work cattle and work sheep, it's two different animals.
Mhm.
Intimidating as a cow is, and when
Mhm.
the cow is wild, that's a different story. So
Mhm.
so you need that dog that has that pain tolerance that can take the punishment and keep working. Do you want them to get hurt? No, you don't want them to get hurt, but it's going to happen.
Mhm.
They push around, they're going to be, run over, and you don't want them to quit. That's all you have, to help
Mhm.
you. So that's basically what it was. And what I did was I had a few specimens where what I did was there were crosses of herders with presses. The
Mhm.
presses out of working line. I wasn't breeding to show dogs, and the herders the same Dutch Shepherds and Malinois. Um, Obviously, now the work is different because I'm not raising cattle. So and the dogs that I was breeding are dogs that have done more geared toward protection.
Right.
But it was basically me messing around and basically paying a little bit tribute to what the dogs that my family had.
Mhm.
Uh, I still have Loba here with me. She's 8 years old, and
Wow.
and she's a great dog. Um, Again, the same thing. She's calm. You don't even know she's here until somebody shows up.
All right.
Um, and she's great with my kids. Um, she didn't grow up with them. I got her. She was a year and a half or 18 months, something like that, and she's been perfect. But is that she's a combination, basically what they call F1s.
Mhm.
Mom is a Dutch Shepherd. Her dad is a Presa.
Awesome.
She'll catch hogs when I used to have some hogs. Dust protection. So I was just messing around and basically what going back basically to a farm utility type dog. You
Mhm.
know, now dogs are very specific. Even the hunting dogs. Back then, the old style farm shepherds, they can herd and they can go and you can go and take them hunting and coon hunt or squirrel hunt and get something for the family to eat. But
Mhm.
it can be used to gather the cow and milk them and whatever. So that's just basically what I was doing with him. Did I keep going with it? No, because it's just too time consuming and money wise. And like I said, my personal life with my family now takes a lot of time out of me.
Yeah.
I'll have a dog here or there, but that's just basically what it was. More
Mhm.
tribute to the family than anything else.
Mhm.
And they're different from the Cuban Bloodhound. The Cuban Bloodhound was just basically a band dog that
Right.
was, you know, to control slaves. You know,
Mhm. Mhm.
you know, um, but where was more the regular country folks needing a dog to work.
Mhm. Mhm.
And you look at Civil War in Cuba when they were importing all the cattle from Tampa and Florida, South Florida area. A lot of them cur dogs went over there.
Okay.
They had we in Cuba and a lot of the Spanish countries we call them perro criollo. Criollo means local dog. But they were all like that, brown with a black muzzle. And to us, we thought, growing up, they were mutts. And then you see them doing extraordinary things in the farm, and you're like, well, I mean, they learn it or whatever. You don't pay attention when you're a kid. Later on, you're researching. The cattle went to Cuba for the war. The dogs came with them in those what do you call them, the type of boats that they used to have ferry with a
Yeah.
ferry. There were type of ferries,
Mhm.
where they're flat and they have the
Mhm.
tank. They just load all the cattle there.
Mhm.
That you know so those dogs ended up in Cuba. You know, and that's just basically it. That's what they had. They had a sort of like a mixture of shepherds with cur dogs, and then they brought the presas and they gave them a little power and pain tolerance to be able to work the cattle that was
Mm-hmm.
so rough to work. You know, I remember going 70. I was 9 years old, 8 years old, and my cousins that were older, teenagers, I couldn't go with them. Obviously, my family didn't want. I was visiting. My brother and I were visiting, and we were visitors. You know, we were guests. So God forbid they put us on a horse, and my mom found out that I fell off a horse somewhere. They will go and cattle for 3 or 4 days. They'll take,
Mm-hmm.
like they did here back in early 1900s. You wouldn't see them for 3 or 4 days. For a week, they'll be gone. My uncle and my cousins, working with a cow. And, they take their dogs with them. And back when I went in the 70s, all they had was like shepherd crosses.
Mm-hmm.
All that old stuff was gone. But yeah, that's what they did with it.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I like that. Thank you for sharing that. Um, well, wrap it up here, and I'll, maybe in a month or so we can kind of touch base again and talk more about dogs. I uh, really appreciate this, and this is the kind of stuff that when I search the internet, I want to listen to somebody with your knowledge and your experiences. So, in 2 or 3 months, if you're available again, I'd appreciate it. Well,
Ron?
yeah, no, and I had a good time, and thanks for sharing your time, and I hope you have a good rest of your Saturday.
Thank you. And then I'll start sharing in your group some training videos and stuff
Yeah,
like that, pictures more,
yeah.
especially with all this rare breeds, so people get to see